Hi, everyone. I'm Cat Oriel with Forbes Breaking News. Today, I'm here with Rep. Henry Cuellar from Texas. Congressman, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, and a happy new year to you.
Oh, Happy New Year to you too. So you represent a border district in Texas, and a lot of people, I think, don't know what the situation actually looks like on the ground. So can you describe it to us?
Well, first of all, every sector of the border is different. For example, West Texas has the lowest crossings in the country. Laredo, my district, has the second lowest crossings. But then we know what's happening in Eagle Pass, El Paso, the Valley, Tucson, Arizona, and other places. So what's happening is you got to understand that every part of the border is different levels of crossings, and they do shift. Years ago, the Valley, Rio Grande Valley, McAllen was the high point. Then it shifted over to El Paso, then went over to Eagle Pass. Now it's a little bit in Tucson. It's because the criminal organizations control where they send the individuals, and that's why you see different changes. I would tell you this, last month we were seeing 10, 12,000 people a day. This last week or so, we're seeing about 2,800 people a day. So compare 10, 12,000 a day compared to 2,800 a day now, tells you that things have slowed down, and I can go into the reasons why.
Yeah, I would love to know the reasons why, but I'm just curious. It's hard to talk about the border as like a huge monolith, as you've said, but you've been in Congress almost 20 years. So would you say overall, if you can assess this, is the situation at the border actually worse today than ever before?
The answer is yes. In the past, you've had historical highs and lows, depending on weather, depending on certain events that might happen in Central America. So I would say that in the past, you had the ups and downs, seasonal ups and downs. That has now changed, where it's a constant flow, except for this month, the numbers have gone down. And the other thing that has changed was in the 90s and before that, most of the people coming through the border were Mexicans looking for jobs. Then in the 2000s, in actually 1998, 1997, there was a law that got changed by a senator in California. And then somebody figured out what this law meant. And therefore, in the 2000s, we had family units, unaccompanied kids coming in from Central America. Now, as you see another change in the demographics, now you got people from over 50 countries, and depending on the month, sometimes the number one area is Mexico, Central America, but then you get Haiti, then you get other countries, Ecuador, Colombia, Venezuela, and you just have different changes. So those are the major demographic changes we've seen over the years.
And so, given these changes, do you agree with the way that President Biden and his administration have been handling the crisis at the southern border? Or do you find yourself siding at all with the Republicans who believe he has actually made it worse?
Well, I certainly am not 100% in agreement with the president, how he's done this. If I was advising the president, I would have done this. I would have told him, look at the American public, tell them there's a immigration crisis. It's okay to use crisis. There's an immigration crisis at the border. We're going to start addressing this. We're going to be on top of this, and then make some changes. And when you negotiate, as they're trying to negotiate in the Senate, and now with the Speaker Johnson, is everybody has to get out of their comfort zones and do this, because unless we're looking at different polls, you will see the polls that one of the biggest challenges that the president has is how he's addressing the border. And I can tell you, in my congressional district, that's almost 80% Hispanic, mostly Democrats. We're starting to lose some of those Democrats, Hispanic Democrats, because they just don't like the way the administration is addressing the issue. And keep in mind that, like my father, Martin, and other folks, they came in, became a legal resident, then a naturalized citizen. It took them a long time to go through this process. And now what they're doing is they're seeing thousands of people that are coming in into the United States and basically jumping lines. They don't like that. And I think as Democrats, we want to see law and order at the border and still treat the migrants with respect and dignity that they deserve. but you got to enforce the law.
So because people have been very critical of President Biden and Democrats and the way that they've handled that, is that why you're willing to reach more across the aisle and work with senators like Senator Cruz and Cornyn on bipartisan efforts like you and them just took action on a bipartisan level, correct?
Well, if you look at this issue when it first started coming up under President Obama, 2013, 2014, actually, I was the one that had been talking about it. Then after a while, the Republicans jumped on, and of course, now they made it more of a political issue. And I hope if we try to address the border issue, we don't say, like some of the Republicans are probably thinking, hey, this is a winning issue for us. Let's not solve it so it can help Republicans in the November election. I think we need to think of what's best for the country and come up with a real solution. I think there's an opportunity now because I'm seeing a shift among Democrats, not all Democrats, but among some Democrats. I mean, look at what's happening in New York, in Massachusetts, and Chicago, and DC, where you got Democratic mayors are saying, whoa, hold it. And governors are saying, hey, this is just too many people. So what they're seeing is only a drop of what we've been seeing at the U.S. border since, I've been working on this issue about 2013 or so.
My final question for you, also tying into news of the day, what do you make of the impeachment proceedings against Secretary Mayorkas?
Look, we might disagree on policy. I'm saying this to the Republicans. The Republicans might disagree with the policy, but this doesn't rise to a high misdemeanor, a treason, felony. It doesn't do that. And so this impeachment is just a distraction. I think what we ought to do is, if we're going to spend our time, let's look at what policy changes we need to address. Where do we put the funding to address this? I mean, if you look at the last two appropriation bills dealing with Homeland, where we added $2.5 billion, that's a 15% increase, except for 5 Republicans that are still here in the House, except for 5, all the other Republicans voted giving money for Border Patrol races, giving monies for hiring new Border Patrol technology at the border. So, you can't say, I'm voting against the appropriations like they did, except for 5 Republicans that are still here that all voted no for funding appropriations and then come back. I don't like what you're doing, Secretary. I don't think this is the use of our time, and we ought to focus on something that's substantive and will get us moving forward.
Congressman, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much.